Helena Blavatsky and the Founding of the Theosophical Society by Aslan Adnan, M.A., Tuesday, 9 June 2026. Introduction. Helena Petrovna Blavatsky, 1831 to 1891, was one of the most influential and controversial figures in the history of modern esotericism. In 1875, she co-founded the Theosophical Society in New York City alongside Henry Steele Olcott and William Quan Judge. Although several individuals participated in the society's establishment, Blavatsky was unquestionably its principal theoretician, visionary, and intellectual driving force. Her ideas shaped the movement's doctrines, objectives, and global influence. The creation of the Theosophical Society emerged from a combination of personal experience, intellectual ambition, and spiritual conviction. Blavatsky believed that humanity had lost contact with an ancient body of wisdom that once united religion, philosophy, and science. She regarded herself as having been entrusted with a mission to recover and disseminate this knowledge for the benefit of the modern world. Early life and intellectual formation. Born Yelena Petrovna von Hahn into an aristocratic Russian family, Blavatsky enjoyed access to a broad range of books and ideas from an early age. Although she received no formal university education, she was largely self-educated and developed an intense interest in religion, mythology, philosophy, and occult traditions. According to later accounts, her great-grandfather possessed a substantial library containing Masonic, mystical, and esoteric works. These materials reportedly stimulated her fascination with hidden knowledge and alternative spiritual traditions. She also encountered aspects of Tibetan Buddhism through contacts with Kalmyk communities living within the Russian Empire, experiences that would later influence her teachings. Blavatsky frequently claimed that unusual spiritual experiences began during her childhood. She described visions of a mysterious Indian figure whom she would later identify as Master Morya, one of the spiritual adepts who played a central role in her later writings. Whether these experiences were literal events, symbolic interpretations, or later embellishments remains a matter of debate among historians. Travels and the search for ancient wisdom. A significant element of Blavatsky's personal narrative involved extensive world travel. She claimed that beginning in 1849, she journeyed across Europe, the Middle East, Asia, and the Americas in pursuit of spiritual knowledge. Most importantly, she asserted that she traveled to Tibet, where she received instruction from highly advanced spiritual adepts residing near Shigatse. According to her own account, these teachers belonged to a hidden fraternity known as the Masters of the Ancient Wisdom. They allegedly trained her in esoteric philosophy and revealed profound truths concerning the spiritual evolution of humanity. Through this training, she claimed to have discovered the fundamental unity underlying all major religions and philosophical systems. Modern biographers have encountered considerable difficulty verifying many of these journeys. Documentary evidence is often incomplete, contradictory, or entirely absent. Some scholars argue that she spent much of the period in Europe and that her travel narratives contain a mixture of factual experiences, personal mythology, and symbolic storytelling. Nevertheless, regardless of their historical accuracy, these accounts became central to the identity of the movement she later created. For Blavatsky, the significance of these experiences lay not in travel itself, but in the conviction that a universal wisdom tradition existed behind all religions. This conviction became the cornerstone of Theosophy. Engagement with spiritualism. During the 19th century, spiritualism emerged as a popular movement in Europe and North America. Spiritualists claimed that the spirits of deceased individuals could communicate with the living through mediums, seances, and various paranormal phenomena. After arriving in the United States in 1873, Blavatsky became deeply involved with spiritualist circles. She attended seances, investigated reports of supernatural manifestations, and gained a reputation as a medium herself. Yet her relationship with spiritualism was complex. While she accepted the reality of many paranormal phenomena, she strongly rejected the common spiritualist belief that such manifestations originated from the spirits of the dead. Instead, she proposed alternative explanations involving non-human entities, elemental forces, astral remnants, and higher spiritual intelligences. In her view, Most spiritualists misunderstood the true nature of the phenomena they observed. She therefore sought to provide a broader philosophical framework that could explain such experiences without relying solely upon communication with deceased individuals. This position placed her at odds with many spiritualists, while simultaneously attracting those who sought a more intellectually ambitious interpretation of paranormal phenomena. Collaboration with Henry Steele Olcott. A crucial turning point occurred in 1874 when Blavatsky met Henry Steele Olcott. Olcott, a lawyer, journalist, and investigator of spiritualist phenomena, shared her interest in exploring the hidden dimensions of human experience. The two developed a close intellectual partnership. Both believed that conventional religion had become dogmatic and restrictive, while modern science often dismissed spiritual realities altogether. They viewed spiritualism as containing important insights, but also as vulnerable to fraud, sensationalism, and intellectual confusion. Together, they began formulating a broader vision that would transcend the limitations of contemporary spiritualism. Their goal was to create a movement capable of investigating spiritual realities while encouraging serious study of philosophy, religion, and science. The founding of the Theosophical Society. In September 1875, Blavatsky, Olcott, and William Quan Judge formally established the Theosophical Society in New York City. The organization was conceived as a vehicle for exploring spiritual truths, promoting intellectual inquiry, and fostering greater understanding among different cultures and religions. The term Theosophy derives from the Greek words theos, meaning God, and Sophia, meaning wisdom. Blavatsky insisted that Theosophy was not a new religion. Rather, she described it as the underlying wisdom that existed behind all genuine religious traditions. One of the Society's central objectives was the synthesis of science, religion, and philosophy. Blavatsky believed that these fields represented different approaches to understanding reality, and that their apparent conflicts resulted from incomplete knowledge. She argued that ancient civilizations possessed spiritual insights that modern societies had largely forgotten. These ideas were presented most fully in her first major work, Isis Unveiled, published in 1877. The book criticized both religious dogmatism and scientific materialism while advancing the idea of an ancient wisdom tradition preserved by initiates throughout history. The mission of the Masters. Blavatsky maintained that the creation of the Theosophical Society was not merely a personal initiative. She repeatedly claimed that the society had been established under the guidance of the Masters of the ancient wisdom. According to her account, these spiritual adepts instructed her to demonstrate the reality of higher spiritual laws, correct misunderstandings within the spiritualist movement, and promote the ideal of universal brotherhood. She regarded herself as a messenger rather than the ultimate source of the teachings she presented. Whether one accepts or rejects these claims, they became an essential component of theosophical belief and helped shape the organization's identity. East-West dialogue and religious reform. The Theosophical Society soon expanded beyond the United States and established a significant presence in India. Blavatsky and Olcott arrived there in 1879, where they attracted considerable interest among educated Indians seeking alternatives to colonial cultural dominance. The society encouraged the comparative study of religions and promoted respect for Asian spiritual traditions. It briefly cooperated with the Arya Samaj movement and later became actively involved in the revival of Buddhism in Ceylon, now Sri Lanka. In 1880, both Blavatsky and Olcott formally embraced Buddhism. These activities reflected one of Blavatsky's broader ambitions, to challenge Western assumptions of cultural and religious superiority. She believed that Eastern traditions preserved profound philosophical insights that deserved global recognition. Controversy and criticism. Blavatsky's career was marked by persistent controversy. Critics accused her of fabricating supernatural phenomena, exaggerating her travels, and inventing stories about the Masters. The most famous challenge to her credibility emerged through the Coulomb affair during the 1880s, when former associates accused her of fraudulent practices. Supporters rejected these allegations and argued that she was the victim of misunderstanding, prejudice, and organized opposition. Historians remain divided regarding many aspects of her life and claims. What is beyond dispute, however, is the extraordinary influence she exerted upon modern religious and esoteric thought. Her writings inspired devoted followers and fierce critics alike, ensuring that her ideas remained subjects of debate long after her death. Legacy and historical significance. Blavatsky continued developing her ideas in later works, most notably The Secret Doctrine, which presented an elaborate cosmology involving spiritual evolution, hidden hierarchies, karma, reincarnation, and the cyclical development of humanity. Her influence extended far beyond the Theosophical Society itself. Theosophical concepts contributed significantly to the emergence of modern New Age spirituality, inspired the development of anthroposophy, and helped introduce concepts such as karma and reincarnation to large Western audiences. At a time when many people felt caught between religious orthodoxy and scientific materialism, Blavatsky offered a third path. Her vision combined mystical experience, comparative religion, philosophical speculation, and the promise of hidden knowledge. Whether viewed as an enlightened visionary, a creative synthesizer of traditions, or a controversial occultist, she remains one of the most consequential figures in the history of modern spirituality. Conclusion: the founding of the Theosophical Society was the culmination of Helena Blavatsky's lifelong quest for spiritual understanding and intellectual synthesis. Her motivations were deeply intertwined with her belief in an ancient wisdom tradition, her dissatisfaction with conventional religious and scientific explanations, and her conviction that humanity required a broader spiritual framework. Although many aspects of her life remain disputed, her impact is undeniable. Through the Theosophical Society, Blavatsky helped reshape modern discussions of religion, spirituality, and cultural exchange, leaving a legacy that continues to influence spiritual movements around the world.
Theosophical Society today, its role, activities, and relevance in the 21st century.
By Aslan Adnan, M.A., Tuesday the 9th of June 2026. Introduction. More than 150 years after its founding by Helena Petrovna Blavatsky, Henry Steele Olcott, and William Quan Judge in New York City in 1875, the Theosophical Society remains active across the globe. While many 19th-century spiritual and reform movements have faded into obscurity, the Theosophical Society has survived, adapted, and continued to attract individuals interested in philosophy, spirituality, comparative religion, and personal development. The organization today is very different from the small circle of seekers that gathered around Blavatsky in New York. It now functions as an international network with branches, lodges, study groups, retreat centers, publishing programs, charitable initiatives, and online educational activities spanning multiple continents. The Society's continued existence raises an interesting question: how has an organization founded in the Victorian era managed to remain relevant in the 21st century? The global organization, the international headquarters of the Theosophical Society, remains at Adyar, Chennai, India, where the organization established its base in the late 19th century. The Adyar estate has become one of the most significant centers of theosophical activity in the world and remains both a symbolic and practical headquarters for the movement. The society is organized through national sections and local lodges operating in dozens of countries. These sections maintain varying degrees of autonomy while remaining linked through the international structure headquartered in Adyar. In 2025 and 2026, the organization marked its sesquicentennial, celebrating 150 years of continuous existence. This milestone was commemorated through conferences, publications, lectures, and international gatherings involving members from numerous countries. The continued operation of the society demonstrates an unusual degree of institutional resilience. Many movements founded during the 19th century fractured or disappeared, whereas the Theosophical Society has maintained an organizational continuity that spans 3 centuries. Leadership in the modern era. The Society today is governed through an elected leadership structure that seeks to balance international coordination with local independence. While leadership roles have evolved over time, the organization continues to emphasize service rather than authority. Modern theosophical leaders generally avoid presenting themselves as spiritual gurus or infallible teachers. Instead, they function primarily as administrators, educators, lecturers, and facilitators of study. This approach reflects one of the Society's long-standing principles, that no individual possesses a monopoly on truth. Members are encouraged to investigate ideas independently and to arrive at their own conclusions through study, reflection, and experience. In contrast to many religious organizations, the society imposes no compulsory creed upon its members. Individuals from diverse religious backgrounds, including Christianity, Islam, Buddhism, Hinduism, Judaism, and non-religious philosophical traditions, may participate while retaining their own beliefs. Educational activities. Education remains one of the society's most important functions. Across the world, local lodges organize lectures, seminars, workshops, reading circles, and discussion groups. Topics commonly include comparative religion, philosophy, psychology, mythology, meditation, ethics, and the history of esoteric traditions. Many branches maintain extensive libraries containing works on religion, spirituality, science, philosophy, and cultural history. These libraries often serve as valuable resources for researchers and members of the public interested in alternative intellectual traditions. Online education has become increasingly important. Virtual lectures, webinars, podcasts, and digital discussion groups now allow individuals to participate regardless of geographical location. This shift towards digital engagement accelerated during the COVID-19 era and has continued since then. As a result, people who might never have attended a physical lodge are now able to engage with theosophical teachings and discussions from anywhere in the world. Publications and research. Publishing has been central to the society since its earliest years. Today, numerous national sections continue to publish magazines, journals, newsletters, books, and digital resources. Among the most prominent publications is The Theosophist, which has been published continuously since the 19th century. These publications address a wide range of topics including philosophy, spirituality, religious studies, environmental ethics, consciousness research, and cultural history. Unlike many religious publications, theosophical journals generally encourage exploration rather than doctrinal conformity. Articles frequently present differing viewpoints and invite readers to consider multiple perspectives. This tradition reflects the society's long-standing commitment to free inquiry. Retreats, conferences, and gatherings. The modern society continues to organize conferences, retreats, and educational gatherings at local, national, and international levels. These events provide opportunities for study, discussion, meditation, and community building. Participants often come from diverse religious, cultural, and professional backgrounds. International conferences have become particularly important in strengthening connections among members from different countries. Such gatherings foster dialogue across cultural boundaries and reinforce the society's commitment to universal brotherhood. The atmosphere at these events is generally educational rather than evangelical. The objective is not conversion but exploration. Theosophy and environmental awareness. One of the most significant developments in recent decades has been the growing emphasis on environmental responsibility. Many contemporary theosophists argue that ecological stewardship naturally follows from the society's teaching concerning the unity of life. If all living beings are interconnected, then environmental destruction becomes not merely a practical problem but also a moral and spiritual concern. This perspective has encouraged various environmental initiatives, conservation projects, and sustainability programs within different national sections. At Adyar itself, environmental preservation has become an increasingly important priority. The historic grounds serve not only as an administrative center, but also as a significant ecological sanctuary within an urban environment. Service and humanitarian work. Although theosophy is often associated with philosophy and metaphysics, service has always been an important aspect of the movement. The Theosophical Order of Service, founded in the early 20th century, continues to coordinate humanitarian and charitable activities around the world. These activities include assistance to disadvantaged communities, educational programs, disaster relief efforts, animal welfare initiatives, and environmental projects. Such work reflects the society's belief that spiritual development should be expressed through practical compassion rather than intellectual discussion alone. For many members, service represents the practical application of the principle of universal brotherhood. The continuing appeal of theosophy. The society's continued relevance may seem surprising in an age dominated by science, technology, and rapid social change, yet many individuals remain dissatisfied with purely material explanations of human existence. Others seek alternatives to rigid religious orthodoxy while still retaining an interest in spiritual questions. Theosophy occupies a unique position between these extremes. It encourages investigation rather than blind belief, while also acknowledging dimensions of experience that conventional materialism often neglects. Its emphasis on comparative religion appeals to those interested in understanding multiple traditions, rather than committing exclusively to one. Similarly, its teachings on karma, reincarnation, spiritual evolution, and human potential continue to attract individuals searching for broader frameworks through which to understand life. Challenges facing the society. Despite its longevity, the society faces significant challenges. Membership numbers in many countries are smaller than during the organization's peak influence in the late 19th and early 20th centuries. Like many voluntary associations, it must compete for attention in a world saturated with digital entertainment and information. Generational renewal presents another challenge. Many sections actively seek to attract younger participants while preserving the traditions and values that define the organization. The society must also navigate the tension between maintaining its historical identity and adapting to contemporary cultural realities. These challenges are not unique to Theosophy. They are shared by many religious, philosophical, and educational organizations operating in the modern world. Looking ahead. As the Theosophical Society enters its second century and a half, it remains committed to the ideals that inspired its founders. Its objectives continue to be the formation of a nucleus of universal brotherhood, the comparative study of religion, philosophy, and science, and the investigation of the latent powers within human beings. While the language and methods employed may evolve, these fundamental aims remain largely unchanged. The society's future will likely depend upon its ability to demonstrate that these ideals continue to possess relevance in a rapidly changing world. Its survival thus far suggests a remarkable capacity for adaptation. Whether viewed as a spiritual movement, an educational organization, a philosophical society, or a bridge between cultures, the Theosophical Society remains one of the most enduring legacies of the 19th century search for universal wisdom. Conclusion. The Theosophical Society today is neither a relic of Victorian occultism nor a mass religious movement. Rather, it is a global network of seekers, educators, writers, and volunteers committed to exploring some of humanity's oldest and deepest questions. Its members continue to investigate the relationship between science and spirituality, study the world's religious traditions, and seek practical ways to express the principle of universal brotherhood. More than 150 years after Helena Blavatsky helped launch the movement, the organization she inspired remains active, evolving, and engaged with the challenges of the modern world. Whether one agrees with its teachings or not, its influence upon modern spirituality, comparative religion, and intercultural understanding remains significant and enduring.
Theosophy, its tenets, principles, and practices. A study of the beliefs, philosophy, and practices of the Theosophical movement, by Aslan Adnan, M.A. Tuesday, the 9th of June 2026. Theosophy is a spiritual and philosophical movement that emerged in the late 19th century. The word itself comes from the Greek words theos, meaning divine, and sophia, meaning wisdom. It is therefore often translated as divine wisdom. Although the term has ancient roots, modern theosophy is most closely associated with the work of Helena Petrovna Blavatsky, who co-founded the Theosophical Society in New York in 1875 alongside Henry Steele Olcott and others. Theosophy presents itself not as a religion but as a body of spiritual knowledge that seeks to uncover universal truths underlying all religions, philosophies, and sciences. Its proponents argue that humanity possesses a shared spiritual heritage and that all major religious traditions express aspects of a single underlying wisdom. Origins of Theosophy. Modern Theosophy arose during a period of intense interest in spiritualism, occultism, comparative religion, and scientific discovery. Blavatsky claimed that many ancient traditions preserved fragments of an ageless wisdom transmitted through enlightened individuals throughout history. She drew upon Hinduism, Buddhism, Neoplatonism, Gnosticism, Hermeticism, and Western esoteric traditions to formulate a comprehensive spiritual worldview. In 1882, the international headquarters of the Theosophical Society was established in Adyar, Chennai, India. India became central to the movement because many theosophists regarded Eastern spiritual traditions as preserving profound insights into human nature and cosmic reality. The three objects of the Theosophical Society. The Theosophical Society is organized around three foundational objectives. The first object is to form a nucleus of the universal brotherhood of humanity without distinction of race, creed, sex, caste, or color. This principle reflects the belief that all human beings share a common spiritual essence. The second object is to encourage the study of comparative religion, philosophy, and science. Theosophists maintain that truth is not confined to any single tradition, and that wisdom can be gained through the careful examination of diverse systems of thought. The third object is to investigate unexplained laws of nature and the powers latent in humanity. This includes interest in consciousness, intuition, psychic phenomena, and aspects of human potential that may not yet be fully understood by conventional science. Unlike many religious organizations, the society does not require adherence to a fixed creed. Acceptance of the three objects is the primary condition of membership. Members remain free to accept or reject specific teachings. Core theosophical tenets. Although theosophy is non-dogmatic, several ideas appear repeatedly throughout its literature. The unity of all life. One of the most fundamental theosophical principles is the unity of existence. According to this view, all forms of life emerge from a common spiritual source. Apparent separateness is considered an illusion arising from limited perception. The universe is seen as an interconnected whole, in which every being participates. Karma. Theosophy teaches the principle of karma, the idea that actions have consequences that shape future experiences. Karma is understood not as punishment, but as a universal law of cause and effect operating on moral, psychological, and spiritual levels. Every thought, word, and action contributes to future conditions. Reincarnation. Closely linked to karma is the doctrine of reincarnation. Theosophists generally believe that the soul undergoes many successive lives, gradually acquiring experience and wisdom. Human existence is viewed as part of a long evolutionary journey rather than a single earthly lifetime. Spiritual evolution. Theosophy proposes that evolution is not merely biological. It is also spiritual and psychological. Humanity is believed to be evolving toward greater consciousness, wisdom, and compassion. Individual growth contributes to a larger cosmic process. The higher self. Theosophical teachings often distinguish between the personality and the higher self. The personality consists of temporary characteristics associated with a particular lifetime. The higher self is regarded as the enduring spiritual aspect of the individual that survives physical death and continues its evolutionary journey. The wisdom tradition. Another central belief is that an ancient wisdom tradition exists behind all major religions. Different faiths are viewed as culturally specific expressions of universal truths rather than mutually exclusive revelations. The concept of human nature. Theosophy presents a complex understanding of the human being. Classical theosophical literature often describes humans as possessing multiple dimensions, including physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual aspects. Human consciousness is seen as layered rather than simple. According to this perspective, genuine spiritual development requires harmonizing these dimensions. Moral growth, self-knowledge, and compassionate action are considered essential elements of this process. The role of masters. Many strands of theosophy teach the existence of highly advanced spiritual beings, sometimes called masters, mahatmas, or adepts. These figures are believed to have attained exceptional wisdom through long spiritual development and are said to assist humanity's evolution. Supporters regard these masters as real individuals operating largely behind the scenes. Critics view them as symbolic or mythological constructs. Regardless of interpretation, the concept has played a significant role in theosophical thought. Theosophical practices. Theosophy generally emphasizes inner transformation rather than ritual observance. Study. Serious study is regarded as a primary practice. Theosophists often read sacred texts from many traditions, including Hindu, Buddhist, Christian, Islamic, and philosophical sources. Comparative study is intended to reveal common themes and deeper truths. Meditation. Meditation is widely practiced within theosophical circles. Methods vary considerably, but the goal is typically greater self-awareness, inner stillness, and spiritual insight. Meditation is viewed as a means of aligning the personality with the higher self. Self-examination. Many theosophists engage in regular self-reflection. They seek to identify negative habits, cultivate virtue, and develop greater understanding of their motivations and actions. Service. Altruistic service occupies an important place within theosophical ethics. Because all life is regarded as interconnected, helping others is viewed as an expression of spiritual understanding rather than mere charity. Universal brotherhood. Practical efforts to overcome prejudice and promote understanding among different groups are often considered expressions of the first object of the society. The ideal of universal brotherhood remains central to theosophical identity. Theosophical ethics. The ethical outlook of theosophy centers on personal responsibility and compassion. Because every action generates consequences through karma, individuals are encouraged to act thoughtfully and ethically. Truthfulness, self-discipline, tolerance, kindness, and respect for others are widely regarded as important virtues. Theosophy generally discourages fanaticism and dogmatism. Since truth is considered larger than any single system, intellectual humility and openness are often emphasized. Theosophy and religion. Theosophy occupies an unusual position in relation to religion. It does not seek to replace existing faiths. Instead, it encourages individuals to explore the spiritual dimensions of their own traditions while remaining open to insights from others. As a result, Theosophists may identify as Christian, Hindu, Buddhist, Muslim, Jewish, secular, or unaffiliated. The movement generally regards spiritual truth as universal rather than exclusive. Influence of Theosophy. Despite never becoming a mass movement, Theosophy has exerted considerable influence on modern spirituality. Its ideas helped popularize concepts such as karma, reincarnation, meditation, spiritual evolution, and comparative religion in the Western world. The movement also influenced various currents of modern esotericism, alternative spirituality, New Age thought, and certain educational and social reform initiatives. Figures associated with the movement played important roles in cultural and intellectual life in both the West and India. Criticisms. Theosophy has attracted criticism from several directions. Some scholars question historical claims made by early Theosophists. Critics have also challenged assertions concerning hidden masters, psychic phenomena, and occult knowledge. Religious critics sometimes argue that Theosophy selectively reinterprets traditional doctrines. Others contend that some of its teachings cannot be empirically verified. Nevertheless, many observers acknowledge its historical significance in fostering dialogue between Eastern and Western spiritual traditions. Conclusion: Theosophy represents an ambitious attempt to unite spirituality, philosophy, and science within a single framework. Its central themes include the unity of life, karma, reincarnation, spiritual evolution, universal brotherhood, and the pursuit of wisdom. Rather than prescribing a rigid creed, it encourages inquiry, study, self-transformation, and service to humanity. Whether regarded as a spiritual philosophy, an esoteric tradition, or a historical movement, Theosophy continues to attract individuals interested in exploring fundamental questions concerning consciousness, morality, human potential, and the deeper nature of reality. Its enduring appeal lies in its effort to reconcile diverse traditions while affirming the interconnectedness of all life.
Are you fat, sick, and nearly dead? Well, according to the data from the latest survey, 54.8% of Malaysians are. In fact, the statistics are quite scary. So if you or any of your loved ones are in this high-risk category, don't despair. I have good news for you. I've written more than 30 books on nutrition, and you can download them all for free. The only limitation is you can only download 10 books per day from Z Library. However, you can download almost 2,500 books from my Telegram broadcast channel. I'll give you the link shortly. And if you're overwhelmed by 30 books, in fact, these 30 books, I've designed them so that they could cover the undergraduate syllabus of a nutrition or dietetics course, or the nutritional needs for a medical student. Anyway, if you think you're overwhelmed, you don't know where to start with this book. And then as you progress, you can, go deeper, take a deep dive into the other books. And if you want to meet me to discuss what you've read in the books, you have a chance in September to do so. However, there are 5 places already been taken up, and there are limited seats, so the sooner you register, the sooner you'll reserve a place for yourself. Attendance is by donation, so details are in the following video.
How to attend Azlan Adnan's Meet the Author luncheon at the Hungry Tapir, 135 Petaling Street, Kuala Lumpur, short walking distance from the Pasar Seni MRT/LRT station, from 12:30 hours, Saturday, 5th September 2026.
Step 1. Download all my 30+ books on nutrition for free from Z Library using this URL. However, there is a limit of 10 downloads a day from Z Library. The workaround is to download them, and 2,250 plus others, from my Optimal Health Community Telegram broadcast channel at EPUB Electronic Publishing. All my free ebooks are published in .EPUB electronic publishing format. If you are still living in the dark ages and only know .PDF, portable document format, and never heard of .EPUB, don't worry. You are about to have a mind-blowing experiential learning journey. If you use an Apple device, .EPUB files open in the Books app. If you are an Android user, use Universal Book Reader or a similar app. If you need further instructions on how to read .EPUB documents, just ask your favorite AI app to teach you. If you have never used an AI app before, start with Grok, Gemini, or ChatGPT. Then move on to DeepSeek, Claude, or Kling later.
Step 2. I have put all my books in the public domain, and you may share them freely. In fact, I strongly implore you to do so. Viralize them, make sure they reach every person who needs the knowledge contained in them. In Malaysia, the most recent data from the National Health and Morbidity Survey 2023 shows that 21.8% of adults are obese and 32.6% are overweight. This means the total combined rate is 54.4% of adults. Scary huge percentages of Malaysians are diabetic or suffer from other non-communicable diseases, NCDs. To be specific, in Malaysia, about 15.5% of adults have chronic kidney disease, CKD, up from 9.1% in 2011. Around 21.4% of adults aged 30 and above are at high risk of cardiovascular disease, CVD. Among older adults, about 8.5% have dementia, equating to roughly 260,000 people as of 2022. A nation is only as strong as its human capital. How strong can a nation be if more than half its population is fat, sick, and nearly dead? Of what good can you be to your family if you are fat, sick, and nearly dead? You owe it to yourself to be the best version of yourself that you can possibly be.
Step 3. Read the books, follow whatever advice that makes sense to you. If something doesn't make sense to you, or causes cognitive dissonance, you can ask me clarifying questions on the 5th of September. Also, be prepared to report on the 5th of September what improvements in your health you have noticed. So far, one person has seen her total cholesterol level drop from always above 5 to 4.6. Another has resolved a chronic constipation issue. I have written 2 books on human stool classification and stool analysis. Another person who wakes up every morning with a white layer of mucus on her tongue for more than half her life, now wakes up with a clear tongue. Step 4. Make the minimum donation by the required dates. The longer you prevaricate, the higher the minimum donation gets. Minimum donation per pax: 100 ringgit for donations received by June 30th, 150 ringgit for donations received by July 31st, 200 ringgit for donations received by August 31st, 500 ringgit for donations received by the 5th of September and for walk-ins. Places are limited. However, I do not wish to deprive anyone. If enough people register, we can take over the whole restaurant, so make your donations early to reserve your place. Purpose: your donations will go towards sponsoring persons with disability, PWD, to attend the event and also towards my various ongoing eye treatments. Sponsorship: if you run a business and wish to promote your business, you can sponsor door gifts, gift vouchers, or even cash.
About the author. Aslan Adnan, M.A., is a visually impaired writer and independent researcher whose work focuses on nutrition science, food systems, and the biological foundations of human health. His writing explores how natural foods contain complex compounds that interact with human physiology to support long-term well-being. He has a particular interest in plant-based bioactive compounds, including polyphenols, carotenoids, flavonoids, and other phytochemicals found in fruits, vegetables, herbs, spices, algae, and fungi. His research examines both the roles these compounds play in plants and their potential impact on human nutrition when consumed as part of a balanced diet. Aslan writes with the curiosity of a scientist and the clarity of a cook. He approaches nutrition from a multidisciplinary perspective, drawing on biochemistry, plant biology, and public health nutrition. His work translates complex scientific concepts into clear, practical explanations that help readers understand the nutritional value of everyday foods. He is the author of several books exploring natural sources of antioxidants and other dietary compounds. Author of the Nutrient Series, Macronutrients, Volume 1, Carbohydrates, Macronutrients, Volume 2, Lipids, Macronutrients, Volume 3, Proteins, Micronutrients, Vitamins, Trace Elements and Minerals, Anti-nutrients, the hidden blockers in your food, Phytonutrients, the quiet power of plants, Water, the forgotten fourth, a macronutrient you can't ignore, Minerals and Trace Elements, Iodine, the element that built modern minds, one nutrient, one global experiment, one fragile victory. Iron deficiency, the hidden drain on your energy, a practical guide to detection, fixes, and long-term control. Nutrition for Vision, the science of seeing better. Author of the Antioxidant Series, Antioxidants in Herbs and Spices, Antioxidants in Algae, Microalgae, and Fungi, Antioxidants in Fruits and Vegetables, Antioxidants in Nuts and Seeds, Nutrient-dense natural foods for optimal health, Antioxidants in berries, plant pigments, polyphenols, and human health, antioxidants in the animal kingdom, edible sources, biological roles, and human health. Other books on health and nutrition, Eat Whole, Whole Health Span, The Science of Plants, Fungi, Algae, and Feeling Awesome, 2nd edition. From Mother's Milk to Mighty Meals, a practical nutrition guide for 2 to 3-year-olds. A Spoonful of Purple, The Story of Ribena, The Geometry of Mouthfeel, Tuberculosis Briefing Paper, 2nd edition, Aslan's 5-Powder Manifesto, Eating the Greek Way, How Cultural Habits Support Health Without Trying, Ideology on a Plate, How Robert F. Kennedy Jr. Turned U.S. Dietary Guidelines into a Scientific Farce, Maslow in 2026, Human Feces, Know Your Shit, Visual Acuity and Its Measurement. These works form part of an ongoing series exploring the chemistry, biological roles, and nutritional significance of bioactive compounds from whole food sources. With a Master's in International Business and Management from the University of Westminster and a postgraduate certificate in teaching from Royal Holloway, University of London, Aslan approaches every page like a classroom, breaking down complex ideas with precision and clarity so anyone can follow along. Building on this foundation, Aslan advocates a practical, food-first approach to nutrition. His work emphasizes whole foods, dietary diversity, and balanced eating patterns, rather than reliance on isolated nutrients or supplements.
How to make a donation. To donate, please scan the QR code found here. Or use the banking details found here.
Important note: include your phone number as the reference when making the bank transfer, as we may need to contact you in case of any last-minute changes. There is no need to write down your name, as it will automatically be displayed.
Important note: as a visually impaired person, VIP, I enjoy legal rights afforded to me by virtue of the Marrakesh Treaty to facilitate access to published works for persons who are blind, visually impaired, or otherwise print disabled. This is a World Intellectual Property Organization (WIPO) Treaty on Copyright, adopted in Marrakesh, Morocco, on June 27, 2013. It establishes limitations and exceptions to copyright law to improve access to published works for people who are blind, visually impaired, or otherwise print disabled. It is commonly referred to as the Marrakesh Treaty or Marrakesh VIP Treaty 2013. The treaty entered into force in Malaysia on June 30, 2023, subsequent to the necessary amendments to the Copyright Act and the Printing Presses and Publications Act to comply with Malaysia's obligations under the Marrakesh VIP Treaty 2013. As a VIP, I have the legal right to import, export, distribute, edit, reformat, and modify copyrighted work without permission from the copyright owner. While distribute means I can freely give away copyrighted work to anyone I please, if you as the recipient are not a person with disability, you can only keep the work for your own personal use and may not share them with a third party. In Malaysia, unlike most other countries, the rights afforded by the Marrakesh Treaty are granted to all persons with disability, PWD, not just to the blind and visually impaired BVI community, and also granted to their caregivers and to those acting on the express instructions of a PWD.
Share your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel to show your support.